Rebecca, we've got Gillian just trying to get in, so she'll be here very soon.
Okay, when she comes in, I'll let her in. So let me share my screen. So can we all see my lovely smiley purple face?
Yep.
Good. Okay. So unusually, we are going to start with Pinterest, which is not a social media we've talked a great deal about in the past in these kind of updates. Pinterest, if you're not at all familiar with Pinterest, is a really visual platform. And it's kind of like a bookmarking tool. So people save pictures, but behind the picture is a link that is relative to that picture. So if you're a writer, it might be a blog post and you have a blog image and then it goes to your blog post. Or it might be products that you have that you obviously want to showcase. And Pinterest is really good if you've got a product-based business, really visual kind of products that then you can add to Pinterest and promote in that way. It's really good for things like makeup industries, beauty industries, design ideas. I know, Jan, I'm sure you use it a lot for inspiration, don't you, with your artistry, and collect kind of boards of ideas together. I know when I moved house recently, I spent a lot of time like creating a garden board and putting ideas together and different lounge kind of feels and things. So it's kind of like a bookmarking visual tool with a link behind, so you can then go in and have a look in more detail about those blog posts or those ideas or those tips. But what it's rolling out in more detail for the business accounts is much more shoppable posts. They're driving the e-commerce front. So again, they're adding it so that you can see the price of a specific product like so. And also, if you then start adding products that are shoppable, a bit like Instagram and Facebook can be, then it also puts into a separate list your shopping list. So it kind of, you can start collecting your ideas, but actually just go straight into your shopping list to go and then perhaps buy those directly. So if you created a board for all your different ideas of how you're going to decorate your lounge, for example, or plants you're going to add to your garden, you can then go direct to your shopping list and then start adding them to the various different sites. So Pinterest is trying to challenge and make it much more e-commerce based again, to help with small businesses being able to sell the products. So again, like Etsy users and things like that, they're going to find that this is great. Does anybody else active on Pinterest in terms of creating content for Pinterest?
It used to be years ago when they said that it was predominantly a female audience, because we found that 90% of people booking our day trips are female. Yeah,
it's still heavily female. It's about 70-75%. But yeah. It's very visual, so yours would work very well. And particularly if people are pitting at the moment, like you were saying, for like Caribbean daydreaming and got their saving pot from 3 years, it might be worth doing a little bit on there at the moment.
Yeah, just a quick hello to Gillian. Sorry, the link didn't get to you in time, but you're welcome. Do you want to quickly say about your business?
Sorry, I lost my screen there. I can't even find myself. I don't know where I am, but if you can hear me. Hi, Gillian from Vida Promotions, based in Brockenhurst. I supply corporate clothing and promotional merchandise. Thank you.
Thanks.
So the Pinterest could be quite good for Gillian, for example.
Okay, cool.
So let's head back to other updates. So we're going to move to Facebook now. And again, in line with e-commerce focus, Facebook has announced a range of new shopping and discovery tools, if you can actually get it working. I know I've got another person scheduled this afternoon to help with their Facebook shop. It's not as simple as it seems if you've got physical products to get it set up and linked on Facebook, but they are developing at the moment, rolling out slowly, including shops on WhatsApp and shop listings in Facebook Marketplace. So if you haven't yet got a business account on WhatsApp, it doesn't necessarily have to be your mobile number, it just has to be a number that it can be phoned to. So I've actually set it up to my main business 0800 number, for example. So WhatsApp might be something that you think about as another way of receiving messages and having to manage yet more incoming messages from clients. So just be aware of that as well. But of course, people do like that instant they see it, they want to ask a question. And with a business WhatsApp, you can of course set out of office kind of replies, which I've set up. So like if it's not 9 to 5, then I've set it up to say, oh, we're not in the office right now, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So at least they know that you've got it, it's been received, and they've got that kind of auto response that gives you time to live your life and still run your business. So they've also started to add a visual search option on Instagram. So a bit like Pinterest, you can add an image. So say you are looking for a particular type of lamp, you found an image, but you can't find where you might be able to buy it. You can now add an image to Instagram, and all coming up, you'll be able to rolling out soon, and it will search for posts by that image, and you can then see if you can find one that's selling it similar. So it's kind of like Google Glasses kind of element. So like I was saying, WhatsApp will enable businesses to present their entire shop within the messaging app. So this is kind of a prototype of what this is going to look like, this Earth Ceramics, and being able to view the collection that way, which is another way for people to find your products and connect with you for more information. And the good news is they're planning, if you've ever tried to set up your Facebook shop and then make Instagram shoppable, they're planning on only having to set it up once. You only need to set it up once, and then it's going to work across Facebook, it's going to work across Instagram, and it's going to work across WhatsApp. So fingers crossed they do make it as simple as they say, because it certainly hasn't been recently in my experience, particularly with all the changes that they're making to Facebook pages. And in addition to this, they're also going to put shop listings where they think is relevant in the Facebook Marketplace. So, you know, where people can buy and sell locally, they're also going to push e-commerce shops. So if you've got a shop on Facebook, they're going to push out what they feel is relevant to the marketplace as well. So that's going to give potential more exposure in that way. One thing that some of you might be doing a bit more of, because you're finding that it's a bit more successful, is video content. If you've ventured into creating video content for social media, you know it's a bit more time consuming than finding an image and writing some text, but it does tend to do better in terms of engagement and getting seen, because the algorithms tend to push it forward more, particularly if it's using newer features that the platform's trying to push. So for example, Instagram Reels. I know Jan's had a lot of success, for example, with creating Instagram Reels rather than just putting up some of her artwork as a still image. Now, if you're, of course, creating video for different, you go to the trouble of creating a video and then you want to share it across your different platforms that you might be on. Of course, they're all different sizes. So, you know, YouTube and Facebook like it perhaps landscape, and certainly Twitter do, but then if you're in stories or if you're in reels, then it's portrait, for example. So it's like, okay, well, now I've shot my video, but now it doesn't fit in the format that this platform. So either I'm going to have to reshoot it, or I'm going to have to try and crop it in a smart way. So Facebook are kind of aware of this, and they've created kind of a smart cropping feature. so that you can automatically generate it either to square or a tall portrait version of the clip. So if you've shot it landscape, it's going to try and be clever and crop it kind of following key elements of your video. So like obviously faces and things, making sure that it moves within the crop, so that if 1 minute you're to the left of the video, it follows you rather than cropping you out of that section. So how you would go about uploading that is doing it natively within Facebook. So if you're using a scheduling tool, okay, it might be a bit of a bind that you've got to now go into Facebook and upload it that way. But generally, if you're uploading video content to Facebook, it's going to give you more features if you do it directly within the Creator Studio. So you can upload it within the Creator Studio and schedule it that way. And then you'll get the option to do smart cropping. So if you're creating, or you're finding that you're creating more and more video content, it could be really handy for you to know about this, so that you can repurpose your video without having to invest in reshoots or time to shoot it in a different rotation, so that you can get your content out there more swiftly. So I don't know if any of you use Facebook groups in your business. Some people have pages and then have a group for a specific thing. For example, Bump and Glide might find it quite useful to have Facebook groups to nurture certain people through the process. It just depends on what you do. Jan, if you were doing, like for Badger Press, you wanted to have groups based on a specific type of artwork, you could, particularly where you're trying to foster a community and know, like, and trust. Groups can be a good way of engaging more with people rather than having a public facing page. And as you probably know, groups can be the public so that anyone can join, or they can be closed, and people have to either be invited or apply and get through a hurdle before they can get into the room. So for some people, they use it for memberships and they use a closed group in that way. If you're managing a page and then you've got a group, or you've got different groups, that can be quite a lot to manage. So Facebook started to realize, and they've announced a range of new admin tools for Facebook groups, including improved comment moderation. So they've kind of turned on some automated kind of conflict alerts to help detect potentially problematic exchanges between people where things perhaps get a bit heated, so that you've got time to get in, and perhaps they'll pause that conversation if they think it's going a bit heated, looking at keywords and things, and alert you as a notification, so that you've got time to go in and monitor that, rather than perhaps an exchange getting out of hand. So that could be quite useful to you. They've changed the admin home setup, and I apologize that this is a bit blurry, but this is an example of what it's now looking like, which makes it a bit easier for you as an admin to access various management tools. I'm just letting somebody else in, which allows you to see, you know, member reported content, go in and check moderation alerts, go in and check these things and work through your tasks like member requests, and so in a much more easier to see at a glance manner. So it kind of gives you these are your tasks to review, so that you can just go in and see at a glance what you need to crack on with. And also, if you look to the right of the screen, because there are so many ways of people posting to these different platforms now, to keep it more simple, if you need to manage a more simple group, they've given you tools to be able to turn on and off different ways of your group interacting. So if you don't want people, for example, to create events or ask for recommendations or create a job listing. You can turn those features off depending on what the purpose of your group is. So that it can be much more focused on what you need your group to do and keep your kind of community in line with respect to that. So also with Facebook, a couple of months ago, we talked about Clubhouse, which is a relatively new platform, which is audio only. And it's a bit like dialing into a radio show and having different talks. And because that has been quite popular, all of the platforms are trying to follow suit and take business away from Clubhouse. So Facebook is rolling out its audio tools in more detail. So they're starting with also adding podcasts, so helping with podcast discovery and playback within the app, so you don't perhaps have to leave to go to Apple Podcasts or anything like that, so that they're keeping you on the app. And I think they've started to do that by invite only, but as they roll that out more and more, those features will become available to more people. And also they have audio rooms, which is basically their alternative to Clubhouse. So these live audio rooms, again, they've started with selected public figures and certain Facebook groups within the US, because of course they're in the US. But again, if they're successful, they'll roll them out over time. So it just gives you an idea of perhaps where things are going and what sort of content you might want to be experimenting with and creating, so that you don't get stuck in that, oh, I'll just post an image sort of remit, and then find that actually everybody else is doing something else, and that's what the platform is pushing. So again, more Facebook, interestingly, and this is one that I can't find any evidence yet that a lot of the other platforms are picking up, but Facebook are spending a lot of money and time investing in AR, so augmented reality. So this is a bit like visual reality and a bit sci-fi, but they've got quite a few items in development. So they've got glasses in development, they've got a Facebook AR hat in development, and an AR smartwatch in development. So it's interesting that they seem to be spending more time in this area. There's not a lot of information yet on exactly what they're going to use or how that's going to work, but I don't know if you've seen Facebook Portal, which I think is bigger in US, where it's kind of like a video device where I think particularly during COVID, kids have been able to call granny and grandpa, and granny and grandpa haven't had to have a computer or a laptop. It's mum and dad sending a device. All they have to do is turn on the device pretty much, and it's like a little mini, they're calling it a portal, so that you can literally connect with people like a visual phone, I guess. So, and the technology they've put into that, they've had some fun with AR, kind of like a bit like you see on Instagram with the selfies and stories where you can turn your hair purple and put on Halloween masks and things like that. They've had some fun with that in terms of like Harry Potter kind of outfits and things like that. And so they're using some of that technology to perhaps look at how they can push that further into just general Facebook. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops. And then some other new features that may be coming soon. If you're on Instagram and producing stories or producing stories on Facebook, you know that certainly on Facebook, there's no real way to reply or interact as a user then of those stories. With Instagram, you can, of course, add quick emojis as a response, like love hearts and laughters, and also then send comments to their DM. Facebook are testing story comments now in a way of perhaps integrating that. So it's interesting, they've got two ways that they're potentially looking at the moment. They're looking at doing direct kind of comments below the story, and also then kind of another screen afterwards for the comments. This one, I guess you'll all be able to see the comments more freely. But if you imagine if you've done a series of stories, which is the kind of point of stories, you sort of build up your different images to a story. If you then every other screen you've got comments between them, that's kind of breaking the flow of what you as a creative created. So it's, if they're gonna go with comments, they're probably gonna go with this format. So it'd be interesting to see how that rolls out and how that will play out. And then Jan will be pleased to know, because she spends a lot of time creating reels, that Facebook is starting to experiment with, okay, it's reels is working quite well on Instagram, and of course they want to compete with TikTok, which we'll come to, as a platform which seems to be growing quickly and is one of their competitors that they're a bit worried about. So they're looking at different ways to combat the rise. So they're looking at, okay, so can we bring reels to Facebook? So they're looking at obviously integrating the clips from perhaps your Instagram, or can you, so that it would share it here, or being able to potentially create directly within Facebook and start, if you're more of a Facebook user than an Instagram user, and you push then some of your Facebook content to Instagram, to do it this way around, creating a reel in Instagram and then pushing it to creating it in Facebook and then pushing it to Instagram if it is successful, or one that's relevant to Instagram. And then you'll see a common theme with some of these updates to different platforms, in that they all seem to be doing similar things. They're also launching a completely kind of separate but tied to platform called Bulletin. And Facebook Bulletin is going to be a kind of a new site specifically targeting writers and podcasters, so that they can publish content and build a subscriber base, build up your email list greater, and give you those tools to do so. And as part of this new platform, it's testing tools and features with at the moment a selected small number of writers. But if it's successful, they're likely to obviously roll it out. They've invested a lot in creating, you know, a separate platform. And with Bulletin, creators, and I think this is, you know, quite important to writers and podcasters, where sometimes some of the rules of platforms can be a bit misleading. They will actually own their rights to the content and the list. And although the platform will still be dependent on Facebook's infrastructure, for example, readers don't have to have, they won't have to have a Facebook account to be able to access the free content. So that's something that can sometimes be a barrier. Not everyone wants, like with a Facebook group, not everyone wants to join up and have a Facebook group just to be able to be part of a membership. And some people prefer to not be on Facebook in that way. So it's quite interesting that they've started to go down that way. So it will be on a separate site, but of course it will allow you to push out content to Facebook in an easy way. So podcasts and articles are going to appear in Facebook newsfeed and within the Facebook news section for distribution. And subscriptions options they're looking at the moment range from gated content. So in other words, if you want to read this, you have to subscribe to our list, to commenting rights and private Facebook groups. So it just depends on how different people will want to utilize it. So that's quite interesting, because at the same time Twitter are doing something very similar. So Twitter have acquired a newsletter platform called Review, and they are working behind the scenes on a number of projects that are aimed at making Twitter money and bringing in more money to the company. So more, Twitter will always remain free, but adding in more features that people can add on and purchase. So if generating leads and building your email list is something that you're very passionate about and works for your marketing, it might be worth looking at Twitter Review, because they've directly started where they then have a newsletter that at the top of the Twitter profile will be a subscribe button, which is quite interesting. to make that part of your profile. Of course, people will have to go to your profile to see that button, and how many people, when they're on Twitter, perhaps look at profiles is another matter. So whether just putting a link in a tweet is perhaps more beneficial will be interesting to see. But anyway, they have thought, okay, well, this could be a way of bringing more money and an add-on to Twitter that some users can opt into. So when people tap on this, the idea is they'll have an option to read a sample issue before you sign up, or just sign up and go through to the next stage, and you'll see a confirmation email which will then be sent to your account, linked to your Twitter profiles, the one that you use Twitter with. So it's quite interesting that a lot of these platforms are looking at different tools to help people add more people to their lists. And then you may or may not have heard of Twitter Blue. I don't think it's quite yet available in this country. It started to roll out in places like Canada and Australia. But basically, this is the first paid version of Twitter. So if you're a big Twitter user, particularly if you're a native Twitter user, rather than using a scheduling tool like Hootsuite, this could give you a range of new tools to help you manage your Twitter engagement. So certain tools so I think it'll work out. So it's $349, for example. It's a monthly recurring subscription. It may not be massive, but it depends on if the tools are going to be useful to you. So some things that are going to be in this paid version are things like undo tweets. So basically you send a tweet and up to 30 seconds, a bit like that, some email tools that you can have where you press send and then you realize, oh, I didn't add the attachment. And it allows you to undo before it gets to the sender. So it will help you catch those perhaps small grammatical errors and mistakes, and maybe rethink your text entirely. So if you're someone who's a big power user of Twitter, that might be quite useful. And then it also gives you the ability to have bookmark folders, so you can categorize a bit like you can in Instagram or Facebook, where you can save a post and then you can put it into a folder, so that you can bookmark things in different ways. So if you see an idea that you might want to repurpose for your own business, or if there's a contact that you want to follow up on, or a link that you want to read at a later date, it will allow you to assign topic folders and making it much more manageable to go back and revisit content within the app. And again, that could be particularly handy for e-commerce listings in tweets, so making it, you know, like a shopping list almost. And then there's reader mode, which allows you to turn sort of tweet threads into clutter-free, easy to read text. So rather than having to go through a number of tweets, if you're reading a particular stream or interactions, it allows you to look at those in one theme. And I don't think this is particularly massive, but it allows you to change the color. So although it's already on desktop, you'll be able to do it within the app. Depends on how, I mean, some people who might struggle with color, that might make it useful. And again, I don't know how useful this is, but being able to change the app icon on your phone. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not sure yet. I might do it if it was free, but I'm not sure that I would pay monthly just to have a different app on my phone compared to everybody else. But perhaps the difference is they're going to get dedicated subscription customer support. So if you are having problems with Twitter or have questions for Twitter, you will be able to contact Twitter much more easily and ask questions, and priority will be given to Blue subscribers. So again, if you're a big Twitter power user and you use it a lot for your business, you might find that Twitter Blue is for you when it rolls out. At the moment, it's in Canada and Australia. Again, it will roll out eventually as they sort of test and tweak and make updates to the app. So they're also, you'll notice that all social media platforms seem to be merging into the same. So Twitter are now testing reactions. So at the moment, you can retweet and you can like. They're looking at emoji style reactions on individual tweets. So this might be coming, probably because it's pretty commonplace in other apps. And it does give a bit more of an insight, I guess, as the publisher. If someone's found it funny rather than just liking it, or if someone's added a different style emoji, it might give you a bit more of a glean and an extra insight into how your audience are reacting to it. So may or may not be useful depending on how useful you find that on other platforms already, but it does give your community another way of perhaps engaging. It's not out there yet, but it might come. One thing that is out there, if you have an Apple phone and your iOS is up to date, is they now have the ability to share tweets direct to Instagram stories. So if you're on Twitter and Instagram, or if you see, you may want to share content depending on it, like if it's a review or an interaction or praise, you can share that directly to your Instagram stories. So what will happen when you do this is when you go to share a tweet, you'll see the Instagram stories option if your Apple phone is at the highest update. And when you tap that, your chosen tweet that you press share on will go into a blank Instagram camera frame, which then you can edit with the visuals. Am I back? Drop out. Right, let me share my screen again. It was the Instagram stories, it killed it. It was like, no. And whilst the tweet itself isn't editable, because that would be slightly weird, that if you could edit the tweet that you were then sharing to Instagram, and you know, it allows you to share perhaps some chosen content within stories. Of course, the tweets that you do share on Instagram stories, they're not tappable. So it's not like they can link back to then read the tweet or the link or anything like that. So how useful it will be depends. But if you've got a lovely review or someone thanking you, it might be useful to share that to your Instagram stories and push it that way. And then they're also playing with the idea of audience control. So Twitter is a beast, and at the moment you do have the ability to put people into different buckets that you're following and put them into Twitter lists, and then you can read all those people in a Twitter list and then you look at their tweets. So you can have like your VIPs, or you can have your customers within the New Forest, and then customers within Winchester and so on, and just focus on a specific audience that you're following. But this allows you to, they're looking at ways of sending out your Twitter either to everyone in your tweet list, or being able to choose which tweets go to different people. So some people have, depending on their interests, they might have a Twitter account for business, and then they might have a personal Twitter account. And the reason for that is obviously the stuff that they share on their personal account, like they're into cricket and books, and that might not be relevant to their business account, or it might be sharing pictures of their kids and interacting with the family. And rather than now Twitter realized having to log in and toggle between accounts, they said, okay, well, what would it be like if we could actually have just one account and then enable users to share their tweets with a selected audience? So they're looking at different ways of doing that in a similar way, like you can share to your friends on Facebook or public on Facebook, but making this much more sort of condensed. So whether they have it with just trusted friends and everyone, or whether they draw it down into communities that you can set. So like if you're sharing pictures of your cats, for example, and you've got lots of friends that also want to talk about their cats, so that your business users don't see all your crazy cat photos, you can just post it to that community, and only that community will see it, which makes it much easier for us as users to do that and not have to toggle between the two accounts, or perhaps make the mistake of which account was I in, and actually I've just posted lovely cat photos or inappropriate memes to my business account. So that could be quite useful if you're a big power Twitter user. What I will do is just check, am I still recording? Stop recording. No, that's fine. So Instagram, moving on to Instagram. One thing that may please lots of people is they are slowly rolling out more and more features to the desktop. So I know, particularly if you're desk-based, I can see Gillian clapping. At the moment, you can do certain things with Instagram on your desktop. So you can read messages, you can look at your DMs, you can comment on other people's posts, but unless you're in Creator Studio in Facebook, you can't post directly from the desktop. And finally, it is coming. Right, somebody else is trying to come in. Hang on, clearly. So those people who are more desktop based, and I prefer to work off the desktop because I can see things better and manage things better, and all of my graphics and things are on my desktop, so it's much easier to work from the desktop. And so most of my scheduling I will do on the desktop. But if you're, you know, working on Instagram, you're a big Instagram user, yeah, you can use your phone, and yeah, you can use scheduling tools, but gosh, there are times when you just wish you're in the app and you just want to be able to post from your desktop. So it is coming. You'll be able to upload images directly from your PC hard drive or videos direct, which saves the whole, oh, now I've got to get it off my phone and send it to. So that will make it much easier for people. And once you add your visual, you'll then, the difference here is to using Creator Studio is you're going to have all the in-app options for editing your feed posts. So if you like to change the filter, if you like to crop, you'll be able to do those directly from Instagram desktop, just like you would on your phone. At the moment, it's not going to be stories or reels, but it is a step forward. So it is much better and easier to work with the native Instagram and post from your desktop for feed posts. So that is going to be good for some of you, I know. Interestingly, Instagram are looking at bringing in suggested posts. So already we have the Explore, for those of you Instagram users, you have the Explore section where you can find new people and find accounts to follow and perhaps search. And the idea is that on the Explore page is that it's supposed to create content of the sort of things you're already engaging with. So if you like a lot of dog pictures and engage with a lot of dog accounts, your Explore page should be full of dogs and dog things. If you're looking at lots of cake and foodie pictures, it should suggest more and more, the algorithm should suggest on your Explore page more and more of those types of posts. However, they are currently testing within your feed recommendations of new people to follow. So people that you've never followed, suggesting people, which could be good exposure in terms of getting out there to new businesses. So if your posts are proving popular with your audience, it will start perhaps suggesting it to like-minded audiences. But as a user, if you're trying to follow already the people, it's already difficult to engage and see the posts from the people that you've chosen to follow. Is that then going to be frustrating to the end user who's like, well, actually, I already follow Thatched Cottage and I barely see their posts unless I go in and make a point of checking and engaging. Do I then really want to see above that and my friends and family random posts from someone that I don't know? So it'd be interesting to see how well they get this algorithm right. Can they highlight really relevant content options so that it does give the right content to the right people? Because my Explore page doesn't necessarily reflect my interests, but then I probably do a lot of research on different hashtags and different subjects for different clients. But if your explore page pretty much looks at the sort of things you're interested in, and it might work. And then last time I was on, I spoke about pushing your Instagram feed. A lot of people share their Instagram post to their stories because they're thinking, oh, I get more exposure. It's like new post, go and have a look, and people can click on it and get more information. Last time I spoke, their Instagram had been trying to stop that because they had a number of people complain that, well, I've seen this. They stopped using stories because they'd already seen it in the feed, depending on how people were using it. And so they actively tried to stop that happening and stop the algorithm from people seeing a duplication of the main feed within stories. But they've now done a massive U-turn on this because some people complained that they were suppressing stories about particular topics, and that being a bit political and points of view. And so they've done a U-turn on that, and it's now at the moment okay for you to post your feed to stories, and they shouldn't be downgraded in the algorithm for you doing that. What I would say is that obviously Instagram are ideally looking for a way around this, and to just monitor your insights. If you do that, how successful is that? How successful are your engagement rates over time if you're doing that over and over again? And maybe use it sparingly for really important things like events or a new product feature, and build the story around that post rather than just sharing your feed post to story. So the other thing that's interesting is you can now hide your likes, and it's also coming to Facebook. So basically you can, so that other users, you'll always be able to see how many people use like your posts, but you have the option to either on individual posts, which is what I did with this post, or all of your posts, which I know some people have done. I know Jan Hawksworth has done this. She's just taken them all off because it takes the pressure off. Some people don't want the pressure of, you know, how many likes has it had. Everybody can still go in and click and see. It's, you know, it gives a couple of people, like by Sean Stevens Art and others. I can see Jan's face there, for example. And anybody can go in and click, but it kind of takes off that normally you would see like it has 14 likes or 20 likes or 100 likes or and sometimes you might not want that pressure or not want that to be a factor on whether someone likes your posts. And if likes aren't so massive here, it might actually encourage engagement. So rather, if likes aren't going up or down by someone liking it on your post, it might mean they actually comment and you're getting more engagement, which is what your post is actually after. So it's interesting to see how people might use this. You can actually go into, if you take a look at this post on my Instagram, but if you go up to the 3 dots here on any individual post, you can then hide likes. So people won't see how many, unless they actively go in and click here, how many people have liked that post. Or you can go into your settings under your profile and turn them all off, which is quite interesting. So different people are using it in different ways. If you want to focus more on engagement and actual people commenting, that might be one way of doing that. You'll still be able to see how many people have liked it, but it just takes away that kind of number game, if you like. As I've said over the last couple of months, obviously Instagram are heavily pushing video. One reason is TikTok, because their significant rival is TikTok. And so Instagram and Facebook, and have done for a while really, but really upping the ante, is they're really having a focus on video. So the algorithm will favor video. And so much so that the CEO has recently said quite openly, we're no longer a photo sharing app or a square photo sharing app. They're really trying to push video. And in fact, they even plan at the moment, you get it if you're on your feed, you get the little square video, or you can do a landscape video, but they're actually planning to make it full screen in the future, and having recommended videos and user feeds more, just like TikTok. So it'll be the whole screen. As someone scrolling through, your video will come up whole screen. And then obviously if they're interested, they'll carry on watching. There's not going to be any distraction below or above. So again, if you can get into creating video content, and it doesn't have to be you on the screen, it can be a series of images that you put together, or a series of graphics that you put together, with a voiceover or not a voiceover, or with music. So you don't have to worry about sharing feet. It can be actually a series of customer reviews. It could be a series of tips on how to care for your feet between appointments and things like that, or how to book, or a bit about staff. So try and don't think, oh gosh, I've got to go on and talk. There's different ways of doing it and different ways of putting together a video. It is more time consuming. Whatever kind of video you make, it is going to be more time consuming than taking a few pictures and writing a few captions. So plan it and experiment with it, rather than just it taking over. So they are planning a bit more like TikTok to show recommended videos again from people you don't follow. So that's the difference at the moment. Instagram, you follow people, and generally you see in your home feed people you follow, or the people you engage with most, whereas TikTok will show random posts from lots of different people. Yes, you can follow people and their posts will perhaps go to the top of the algorithm, but it will push content from other people as well, that's more that's popular. So they're also looking at ways that they can, particularly creators and influencers, they've looked at ways that they can begin testing with native affiliate tools. Not sure this is necessarily relevant to most businesses here, but it's worth mentioning, particularly if you want to work with people who create content for you, influencers and creators for you. But they're looking at ways that they can reward people that create content. So they are trying a few different things so that creators can earn commissions for things that they create to make the platform more profitable for them, in the same way that perhaps YouTube is, and for any subsequent purchases that they drive, so partners that you may want to work with. And they're also going to add in, so particularly for creators in particular, where you have a personal platform, alongside that perhaps being able to attach your existing business shop alongside your personal for the business or creator account, so that you can push your shop onto your personal, so that you're kind of, or any shop that you advocate and want to show and showcase that you're a fan of. I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's interesting to see that that might be coming. So if you do work with other people or creators, it might be something worth considering. And they're also looking at testing like a bonuses program, particularly for Reels, to get more and more people using Reels. This is this whole drive of competing with TikTok. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Another thing which, oh my gosh, I hope they do, that they're talking about and experimenting with at the moment, is at the moment you can have a link in your bio on Instagram, but in your stories you can only share links if you have 10,000 followers or more. Now that's not many people that I know. I think the only account I know of is locally is the New Forest National Park, which makes sense if you think about it. So they get the swipe up in their stories, so that if you're promoting something, you can swipe up and it goes directly to the link. But they are testing story links. So you can see in this example here, they've got a sticker that they you can add a link to the story, and that hopefully will take away this 10,000 barrier, but also it's actually quite good because it's more visual and you can just stick it in and people can see it much easier rather than having to write swipe up and all those kind of things. So they're testing it at the moment and they're focusing more on rolling this out to smaller businesses. So fingers crossed that will roll out and make life a lot easier for us, sharing links in Instagram. Yes, you can do shoppable links and make things shoppable, but if you're a writer or a content or wanting to link to a blog post or something like that, that's really difficult on Instagram at the moment, where you're trying to promote perhaps your latest blog post or ask questions about a resource. So this could be really useful to certain accounts if it rolls out. And then Instagram Reels. If you've been creating Reels, one thing that Instagram did not have was insights, analytics on this. Now, Instagram have rolled out data for both Reels and Instagram Live broadcasts within the app. So you can go into your insights and you should be able to start seeing how many plays has it had, how many likes has it had, to see what is working. So if you've been hard at work experimenting with the Reels and you know, yeah, okay, they seem to be more popular than my other posts, but now which Reels are better than other Reels and what sort of content do I need to creating, you should now be able to go into your insights and start having a look at this. If you're creating Reels or if you're pushing, either creating content in TikTok and then uploading it to Instagram, or you're sharing information, your TikToks to Instagram, it's worth noting that Instagram are going to restrict the reach of Reels that include the TikTok watermark or a similar watermark. So if it's like from an app or something, because they want it to look native to their platform and not be advertising people to go elsewhere. So bear that in mind if you're cross-posting or repurposing to upload a native video direct, rather than trying to save yourself some time but actually doing some damage to your algorithm. And then the other thing, if you're creating Reels, you can now advertise. It started to launch Reels ads, which could help you reach people you don't follow and grow more on a global stage where brands and creators can be discovered by anyone. So that's worth noting as well. That's yet another way, a different platform of advertising. Now, I've mentioned TikTok a few times. The reason is it's still growing, and there are some people don't like TikTok because there are content concerns and data safety issues and other controversies to a varying degree. So there's been some controversy surrounding TikTok and its security. However, it was once again the most downloading non-gaming app in June 2021. So more and more people are downloading it. Kind of makes sense, because if you've already got Facebook, you wouldn't be downloading it. But there are more and more people intrigued and going onto the platform to take a look. And they are hoping to transition more into e-commerce. So if you haven't yet ventured into TikTok and had a look, you might want to have a little look at the platform and have a think about it and how it's going to work. They're also working hard on how they can generate more money themselves to keep themselves going. So one thing that they've done recently is that's to stop top stars drifting off to more lucrative opportunities like YouTube. So they've recently introduced something called shout outs, where big names can do shout outs paid for, and it enables fans to pay to have platform stars send them a personalized video message. We're talking about the younger generation when we're talking about this kind of thing, but it's something that will appeal to the younger generation, to the point that TikTok has added its own virtual currency last year, which enables users to purchase virtual gifts with real money that can then be sent to creators during TikTok live streams. So that's one way of incentivizing more and more people to use it. And I never thought I'd say these words, but are TikTok now looking to perhaps take over LinkedIn? So
let's power up your job search by crafting the perfect TikTok resume.
These are the reasons why you should hire me.
Here's some ways I can help your business. Let me tell you why I'm the right guy for the job.
Consider me for your team.
Let's get creative and let's get that dream job.
So really interesting how things are kind of developing on different TikTok. You never would have thought that this would be a platform that you would perhaps look at using to help you get a job. It is US only. They have launched resumes to help connect candidates with job opportunities. I think this is particularly during the whole pandemic phase. But it's a pilot program, and obviously it's where people can add their visual video, why they'd be good for a job. And they're teaming up with certain companies and invited job seekers to apply for entry-level experience positions with some of the really big employers. So like Shopify, WWE, all those kind of things. And people apply with a TikTok video resume. Now, it's not going to be for all types of jobs that this might be successful for, but if you think about it, where particularly they're looking for people who are social media savvy and will pick up lots of things within a company quickly, and it's specific to, you know, brands that this would work for, it may work. So they're trying it. So it'd be interesting to see whether that picks up and gets rolled out to other countries. But it just goes to show where kind of you started thinking, right, okay, well, TikTok's fun, you know, it's got lots of group dances and challenges and things. More and more people are starting to look at how they can use it for business, and a lot of them are starting to do that successfully. And what is going to help with that is longer videos, because before, the whole appeal of TikTok was it's short, quick videos that you'd watch very quickly. Now, I say longer videos, now you get up to a minute, but a minute compared to 15 seconds or 30 seconds is quite a lot. You can explain something, you can do a quick demo, rather than it just being 15 seconds of fashion changes or dogs doing silly things. You've now got more time to be a bit creative. People before were chopping up kind of a story into multiple videos. So TikTok have identified the need, and they are going to allow a 3-minute option to users eventually. So you'll get notified if you're a TikTok user when the 3-minute option's been rolled out into your toolbox. So I've done a really sort of mind-sweeping overview of different platforms and the different changes coming to the different platforms. Not a lot of different changes on LinkedIn at the moment, but if I stop sharing, I can then start taking questions and looking at the chat in a bit more detail. So Jan's gone. I will send the recording to Jan. Hi, I use Instagram on the desktop. Is there a workaround to post from desktop? I think it's in developer tools and everything. So yes, you can force your desktop into mobile by, I think it's putting mob first before the Instagram URL to be able to post on your desktop. Basically, you're making your computer think it's in the mobile frame rather than a desktop frame. So that is one way around it, but it should roll out and big screen being able for you to be able to see that in more detail. Has anyone else got any questions? Do you just want to I can either unmute you all and you can jump in, or yeah, so let's start with Gillian. Hang on, are you able to? Good.
Yeah, just wanted to check. So my suppliers, so on the clothing side, my suppliers, all the graphics that I use is from them. You know, they've got specific ones for us to use because they really like professional ones. And they also do videos. But I don't know how to then take that video and put it into my Instagram or or Facebook, because, you know, photos easy enough.
Yeah.
You know, just copy and paste type thing and save it.
So one thing you could do is ask them for videos. So you could ask them to send you the video files. That might be the quickest way to do it. What they post it when you see their videos? What are they on? Are they on YouTube?
On all the platforms as well, Facebook and Instagram.
So some you can share. So you could do like a share, so to Instagram stories and things like that. But it might be worth, if there's particular videos that you want to post natively, yes, you might be worth chatting to them and saying, I really like the video, I want to use it on my platforms. Could you give me the appropriate file? And we transfer it across. WeTransfer.com is a really good sort of large file transfer platform, which I'm sure you probably use similar. That is probably the best way, because then you've got the native video that you can upload rather than sharing, and that's going to be better.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I'll ask them. Thank you.
Anyone else got some questions?
Oh, sorry, I got one more on something completely different.
Oh, there we go to Serena.
So the group, on the group side, how come, so I have a group, and how come, so I've got questions that they have to answer to be able to come into the group, but a lot of times they don't answer them, and it's almost like they can't see them. And is it only if they're doing it on their phones and not on a laptop?
It depends on how the group is set. So you can set it so they have to answer the questions, and then they can go straight into the group, which means that actually if they put a space as the answer to all the questions, that they would get into the group. Or you can do it so that they have to then be approved by an admin once they've answered the questions, and that way they can't get into the group before you've had time to check their answers and approve them that way. So it depends on the setting. So you should be able to go into the settings and change them and make them stricter if you feel that you need to.
They can't come in until they've answered the questions, but the problem is they're not answering the questions.
So you might want to look at how you can check. There must be a way. I'm trying to think. There probably is a way to change the setting. As I'll go in and have a look. Group settings.
And it's not everybody. So people are answering the questions, but there's people who aren't. And then I'm wondering, can they not see them if they?
There is kind of a blip that I think you can kind of come out of it, and you still get answered. You still get into the group for a period. Because I know I've done it personally before, but I'll go in and I'll have a look, and I'll see if I can find the settings that you need to double check to see if you can make it a bit stricter, and I'll send them to you, Gillian.
Thank you.
Serena, you had a question.
So is it true that all the different platforms don't like it, I imagine understandably, when you put something in that takes you away from their platform? And also, how do the algorithms work if you're posting similar things? So for example, I have different followers on Facebook to Instagram, but I used to do every Wednesday. I did like a Words on Wednesday post. But I posted it to both platforms, and I didn't know if that was then negatively impacted in terms of the algorithms.
So you've got a couple of things, haven't you? So first of all, if all you're ever publishing is links, Facebook aren't going to promote link posts highly, because of course, if you click on the link, you've left Facebook. But one of the things that obviously you want to use Facebook for is to be able to share links. Twitter is better at this and not downgrading you for that kind of thing. So there are platforms that do it better. And of course, Pinterest, you have to have a link to be able to put a picture up or a video. So there has to be a link. So what I would say is, yes, obviously it's not always going to favor those posts, but the whole point of you using it is to be able to drive traffic to your website. So I would keep the content variety going across your posts, and not try to make so many back-to-back link posts, if that makes sense. Help you get over that kind of hurdle. And then secondly, obviously, if you're doing engaging posts, having lots of engagement and then doing a link post, that's going to help the link post get seen the next time you post. Most people there will be people who follow you on Instagram, there will be people who follow you then on Facebook. If they're, they really like your brand, they want to follow you, they will follow you across different platforms if they're on different platforms. So then if you post the same content on the same day, I don't know about you, but most users tend to have that kind of phone break, don't they? Where they'll go, right, I'm making a cup of tea, I'll scroll through Facebook, I'll scroll through Instagram. And whilst it's easy for you to create the same post and post it out to both platforms, if I've already seen it on Instagram, and then I see it on Facebook, I'm not going to engage with it on Facebook, am I? Because I've already engaged with it on Instagram, or vice versa. Yeah. So what I would say to you is, yes, have that content strategy where you perhaps do post that content to both platforms, but with your, what was it, Words Wednesday?
Words on Wednesday, yeah.
So plan it so that actually your Words Wednesday on Facebook goes out the first of the month, and that same post goes out to Instagram but perhaps later in the month, so they might have seen it but they've already forgotten it by the time they come back to it at the end of the month. Right. And then reverse it so that the one that you share at Instagram at the start of the month is perhaps one you post to Facebook later on the month. So do a batch, plan them all, but don't do them both on the same day. So yes, you can repurpose the content, but perhaps use them in different months if you can get a bit strategic about it. And that way, yes, and also then it's a reminder, oh yeah, I do remember I saw that post, and it's that familiar kind of, rather than like, oh, I've just seen that.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
So that's a way of using the same content, but not having to either deal with the algorithm, and then, because the catch-22 is if you don't get engagement on one, it's then not going to show your next post and boost that person again because they've not engaged. So it says, oh, Facebook goes, oh, they didn't like that. The fact that they've actually engaged quite heavily on Instagram. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Reusing it, but not having to affect the algorithm, perhaps.
Perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions? Can I see everyone? Can't. So is there anything for September session that you would like covering in a lot more detail? I know Serena said certainly like hashtags and posting at the time of the day. Are there any platforms that we haven't covered in a lot of detail that perhaps you want to take a look at? Or, yeah, Serena?
Sorry. It's more a question for everybody as well, if that can be kind of a subject of discussion in the September bit of, so basically which platforms everybody is using, how easy they're finding to time, you know, planning and all that kind of stuff. But also what they're seeing getting out of it, if that makes sense. So because obviously people use them for different reasons, and clearly from what you've just said today, all these platforms are going towards, you know, selling more, e-commerce potentially. But like, for example, the Word on Wednesday thing is more for people to get a feel of who I am. So it's a kind of a different approach. So I don't technically get, and you know, people don't have babies every single week. So I don't get sales every single week from it, but it's a different, so it'd be interested to see how other businesses are using it and how they're finding the return, basically.
Yeah, and I would definitely advise not to always be selling. So although they're enabling those e-commerce features, that's not to say that your users want to necessarily be sold to all the time. And the thing to always do is it's almost like that 80-20 rule. It's 80% giving value, 20% selling. And so what really people want, not the networks, what people want from social media is to engage or be entertained, or to, you know, connect in some way or have value in some way from interacting that. And if they do all of those things, then they're more likely to buy from you. So yes, having those e-commerce tools is going to be helpful, but it's not the sole purpose of that platform. They're trying to make it easier for you to sell when it comes to the sell, but that's not necessarily what you should just be doing, if that makes sense. So that will certainly, but yeah, it would be interesting if we could perhaps, if people have time to do a survey and you know, in the run-up, I'll mention it to Matthew, and perhaps have a look at that so that we can perhaps showcase. And if anyone's got a showcase of what they feel is working well for them, that might be really useful. So we can say, well, this works, or even sending in, well, this post works really well for me on this platform, but yet this isn't working and I don't know why. So it might be useful to have a kind of a workshop where people send in, this works, but this doesn't. Why? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? And having that kind of workshop, would people find that useful? Yeah, I've got a couple of people.
Yeah.
So I'll speak to Matthew and see what we could perhaps organise in terms of that.
Can I ask, do you know, or do you work with MailChimp?
Yeah.
Because that's one I'd like to explore.
They've changed it recently, haven't they?
Sorry?
They've changed it recently to make it better.
Yeah. I just, to sort of, because I don't send out my marketing emails via MailChimp, although I've got it and I've started loading and getting, client base, but, there's not many on there. But I don't know then, once I've got that, how to then issue those nice fancy emails that go out that say MailChimp at the bottom.
Yeah. Anything else? Any platforms that you particularly want to cover? No. Hi Claire, I saw you come in late. Have you got any questions or things you right?
Yeah, sorry, just slow on meeting. Yeah, apologies for getting here late. No, I mean, I think it's, for us anyway, it's being very aware of who our target audience is, and making sure that our messages are visible and current on those platforms most visited by the people most likely to be interested in what we're doing. So, that constantly reviewing that probably is as much of an effective tool for us. Yeah,
and you might, like New Forest Mark is a clear example of how you might use different platforms for different things. So Instagram and Facebook are very public facing for you, very good for like talking about your subscription boxes and events coming up and things like that. But you might perhaps use, say, LinkedIn and Twitter, more of a B2B and connecting with other organizations and showcasing their work, particularly with like hospitality industry and things like that, or making new connections. So it might be worth sitting down and doing a review of actually how do we use this platform, rather than just posting the same, like we were saying, the same content out to all platforms. Is this more of a tool for building new connections in certain industries or certain businesses, or is this a public facing tool that people are like to engage with the content that we're putting out for our members? So and then being active in different ways on those platforms. So I think for you, Instagram and Facebook are very much your public facing tools.
And particularly relevant to our producer members.
That's it. Yeah.
As opposed to the business to business connections within the mark as well. So yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that jumped out at me in what you've just said recently, is careful consideration of the reason for posting what you're posting, what you hope to achieve with it.
Not all platforms need you to post as frequently. Like LinkedIn doesn't need you to do lots of posts, but what it might do is more engagement with the people that you're connected with. So engaging with the hospitality and the Kerry's Manors and the New Forest Business Partnership kind of network and those kind of things, and integrating that way and engaging that way, and having more of a focus, perhaps time once a week for someone to do that, or yourself to do that, and then creating content to push out, like you say, your producer and your members more on those public face platforms like the Instagrams and the Facebooks. And Twitter, kind of, you can do a bit of both because of the purpose and how quickly it moves. And thinking of it that way, rather than like, well, we use the same content on all platforms, because if they've seen it on Instagram, they're likely to have seen it on LinkedIn, particularly if you're posting at the same time. And it's how you phrase those different things in more detail, and tag those different people in the different ways.
And it's quite interesting for us as well, as a membership organisation, we've almost got two distinct audiences, in that we've got the general public who we want to be made aware of New Forest Mark and what all our members do, but we've also got our members who we want to feel part of New Forest Mark, and that they are recognised and promoted and engaged with as a member of the mark as well. So it's sort of identifying the different messages that could go to different audiences.
Yeah.
And then choosing the right platform and message to go.
Definitely. So your group would be a good place to kind of do more member to member engagement, and obviously you're promoting them and tagging them on those more public facing platforms, and that's going to help them feel valued on any platform that you do that. But in the group you can then foster that kind of like, what are people struggling with at the moment? Have you seen this grant coming up, or have you seen this resource or this networking that you might find useful? Those kind of things. Or what training do you feel you need at the moment in the current climate? Those sort of things might be useful even once a week, because people are busy. So if you post once a week in the members group at a set time, you know, once a week, people know then to go and look for it, and you might start more of a conversation.
So it's almost the members, the Mark members group is almost filling the gap that is left by us not being able to do the face-to-face meetings, and so it has become something that members have started to use a bit more, but it's a very slow process. If
you can drive that a bit more, particularly with taking on perhaps someone and having that strategy in place, that once a week, whether you call it, you know, like every Tip Tuesday or something, and every Tuesday at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock you'll be sharing, or a conversation starter, or that's the engagement. So a bit like you can have Twitter hours, can't you, where people engage, like Hampshire Twitter hours, things like that. People don't have to be present at that time then to be able to go back and look at their post, but if they know that you're regularly going to post, they can then go back and engage with that post.
It's almost like a weekly update, or a news chat or something like that.
Anybody got anything else they want to add, or questions they want to add? And I will send some stuff to you, Chris. It's Chris, isn't it? I will. I'm going to do some post ideas, because I did say that last time, so I'm going to do that this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay then. I don't think Matthew's busy serving cream teas and gins even at this hour potentially. So I will wrap up. We are taking a break for social media in August, because hopefully we're all, albeit in the UK, finding a beach or a lake or a mountain that we can perhaps go and take some pictures on our personal feeds, rather than perhaps, you know, flying abroad this year. And then we'll be back in September with a more focused, perhaps a workshop based, where we can get some of you to send in, well, why did this post work and why does that post do all right? So I'll speak to Matthew about perhaps collating that information, and then we can work through some examples for you, and hopefully with enough different businesses and enough different platforms, that's going to be useful to a number of different people. So thank you all for coming. Have a good rest of the day. And see you in September, if not before.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much,
Bye,
Rebecca.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Cheerio.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.